Breaking into the music business is a unique journey for everyone, but the love of music and the culture is the connecting tie. These are the untold stories of how Canada's most prominent Black entertainment professionals got started in an industry that never sleeps. I'm Gemini, and I welcome you to the AMPLIFY Podcast. When confronted with difficult times, there's only one thing you can do: push forward. From experiencing personal loss to proving naysayers wrong, this episode we discover where our guests get their drive, the mentors that held them up, and how they came out on top.
Another driving force was that in 1990, when I was studying English literature at the University of Toronto, one of my friends who was in her 20s died suddenly. And that was a very pivotal point in my life. I thought, wow, what if I was to die just like that? What has been the point of my life? What has been my purpose? And as a reaction to this death and the trauma of it, I kind of lost my mind a little bit. And all I could think about was that could happen at any second. What have I done? I have to hurry up and do something. And studying Shakespeare and Chaucer just did not seem important. And I dropped out of university. And it was shortly after that that Each One Teach One started. So that was a huge driving force for me. I was a zealot. If anyone said to me, Ebony, let's go for lunch or let's do whatever, it's like, yeah, maybe in 5 years, you know. Anyone who was in my life had to be a part of what I was doing. They'd have to either be a mentor or a volunteer or participate in some way if they were going to be in my life. I was that focused. That was all that I was wanting to do. And I never thought of it as a sacrifice. I never thought, oh, I'm missing out on the parties. I never thought any of that. I was just very focused on having my life mean something and making a difference. And then the wind that kept me going through all of the years of doing it was getting the feedback from the people who benefited from it. Without that, I mean, because there's no money in it, right? So that was the currency for me.
For Honey Jam founder Ebony Rowe, the sudden death of a friend became the driving force behind Each One Teach One. Along the same vein, DJ Four Corners used the pain of parting ways with his business partner to fuel his career as a solo act.
I would say the most challenging thing that I've had to deal with was the moment when I had to let go of my former business partner and continue on as a solo act, because we'd been together through it all. It was a tough lesson for me to learn that not everybody's goals are the same. Not everybody has the same level of, stubbornness, relentlessness, perseverance. Not everybody wants the same thing. And I really wanted it for him because we had a really good thing going on, and he's my best friend. I loved working with him. But it got to the point where I realized that, you know what, he doesn't seem to want what I want despite what he's saying to me with his words. His actions are showing differently. And that was really tough. That was very tough. If there's ever been a moment where I thought maybe I don't want to do this anymore, that was the closest I've ever gotten, where I'm like, what's next now? Like, what now? And then I shook that off and was like, well, no, this is what I want to do. I'm very clear about what I want to do. And if I'm not going to be doing it with him anymore, I'm going to have to figure out how to do this solo. And from there, I considered changing my name, was talked out of that. And just I went through a whole rebrand to, shake that off mentally as well, and to make it clear outside of myself that, okay, something different is happening now, and I had to move forward.
When your friendships or partnerships break down, as was the case for DJ Four Corners, it is challenging. But another challenge that comes from great loss is, how do you move on when the person who raised you has died? For media personality Jesse Jones, losing his mother and hero Denise Jones forced him to gain a new perspective.
You know, I think the game changer has been, I've gone through a deep loss. I know what it looks like and feels like to be in a room where your hero leaves you, right? So for me, I've seen life. It was crazy. I was thinking about this the other day. She brings me into the world, and I was there as she left it. I understand what happens when someone, I've gone through this period of loss, and so you see life change. And so I'm like, what is this part about, really? Well, to me, it's about experiences, lots of them, because none of this goes with us. But what leaves, what's here is the impact. How did you impact the world? How did you impact the people around you? Who did you carry? Who did you inspire? Who did you affect? If I'm in this thing just to get my thing off, how much better are we? And if we're all doing that, we're actually putting ourselves further back because we're not building infrastructure. So we're going to have a lot of individuals with nowhere to be placed. You understand what I'm saying?
Knowing your impact on the world and reflecting on how you move in this space is essential. As Lisa Monet tells it, her naysayers helped her navigate the DJ world as a woman and a bad gal.
I had naysayers as close to my family. I remember when I made the decision that I wanted to be a DJ full time, my mom and my dad would send me job postings. You know, my mom would be like, oh, Scotiabank is hiring, this bank is hiring. And I'd be like, okay, cool. But I wanted to prove to them that this is a profession that I have chosen, that I'm going to be successful at, and that I'm going to make money. Because, being first generation West Indian, it's like your parents kind of expect you to go to school, get a job, stay in that job for 20 years and retire like they did. They didn't expect their kids to become entrepreneurs or to, find unconventional ways of making money in the creative industry. So for me, I felt like I had to prove myself my whole career. I had to prove myself to all the guys, and I had to prove myself to my family. But I never really sat and felt sorry for myself. I just kind of said, well, you know what? I just have to prove to these people that I can do it, because I knew I could. I think I had a really good head start because I was friends with a lot of them. And even though, you could feel that I'm not sure, I'm not sure she could play prime time. I'm not sure if she's ready yet. It was like, I still got to prove it to you guys. And I didn't want anybody to give me a pass because I was a girl or because I was a female. I wanted to be just as good as a lot of my friends and a lot of my peers who happened to be men. And I also felt like I couldn't dabble in some of the things that the guys did. I had to kind of really be cognizant of who I hung out with and, who I dated and stuff like that. So it was just very, it was very different. And I don't regret any of it because it brought me to where I am and it put me in a very disciplined place. So, as they say, I saw it go.
As for the fearless, passionate, and determined Ebony Rowe, she found a way to tap into her strengths and bring words to action.
I'm a Leo. I'm a bad bitch. I'm a boss bitch. And that's my personality kind of coming out of the womb. One thing about Leos is they always hate injustice. It's a natural instinct to protect and to assist and to fight for the things that you think are right and to stop the things that are wrong. So I've just always been like that. And I don't have fear of, what's someone going to say, or they might be offended, or they might whatever. Keep my eye on the prize of what it is that I want to achieve by any means necessary. I'm a disciple of Malcolm X. And so he says, when you see a problem, the same finger that you're pointing out, you ask yourself, what are you doing to be part of the solution? And if that's nothing, then shut up, right? You don't get to complain if you aren't doing something to affect change.
But where do you find strength and guidance in difficult times? Ebony found it in the words of Malcolm X, while Four Corners became the mentor he needed for others.
I'm kind of become a person that a lot of people call to ask questions or seek guidance, or even just to get a kick in the ass to like believe in themselves. Like, I'm very, very big on, you just have to decide. If you decide, then you will take the steps to get there. Like, if you decide you want to leave this room, you're going to have to get up out the chair and put one foot in front of the other and walk. Nobody's going to carry you. That's the way it works for everything. So I've just become kind of that person that like champion everybody. And I look around and I see people that I think are talented, and I might check in on them and be like, what are you up to? What's the plan? Like, what's next? How you doing? Because I think we have so much talent in this country, this city, but much less in this country. And I don't know, not everybody is relentless in the way that I think that I am.
The talent in this country is undeniable, and fostering that talent is essential. That's where mentorship comes into play. Jermaine Clayton, president of Awesome Productions, understands this and knows he was lucky to have a business partner who helped him reach his full potential.
Having someone that you can bounce those ideas off of, having someone that actually puts the battery in your backpack, I think that's what allows you to go, you know what, I don't need a backup because I have a backup. I have someone that like actually strongly believes in what I'm doing, so that helps me to step out in faith and to make things happen. And then, of course, having great clients, having great individuals that you work with on a daily basis that really just helps register what this is and how you really fit in.
But if you don't have a mentor and struggle to find your way, how do you push through imposter syndrome? Because we've all had it. Randy Phipps, principal of RP Communications, says it's all about getting your mind right.
I would say dealing with adversity, number one, fear pops up and you kind of have to push past it. You have to like leave it behind you and just kind of keep your eye on the prize, focus on that goal. Imposter syndrome is something that comes up a lot too. Even when you reach a certain level of success, you start to doubt yourself. You think that, what am I doing here? Who am I? Why am I here? Why did they invite me to this? I'm just a X, Y, and Z, and you have this negative self-talk. So you kind of have to change the narrative that goes on in your head, and it's something that I tell to my friends, to my clients, anyone that listens. Everything starts in your mind, and you have to speak to yourself properly, like how you'd speak to a friend. So you can't be like, what are you doing here? You suck. Who are you? What place do you have being at this event or working with this person? Like, you're nothing. Someone else has more experience than you. Like, all of that stuff you have to like stop at the start, or it can consume you, and then eventually it eats away at you and it impacts your success level. Because if you get your mind right and you start thinking a different way, your vision is going to take you higher because you believe in yourself and you know what your value and your worth is. And I think that's something really important to note as well, knowing your value and your worth. Because at the start, I feel like as entrepreneurs, everyone starts out, I'm going to do this for cheap. I'm going to do this for that. I need to do this for experience. And then you kind of like get over that. Like, that's a natural step in a progression. But as you start to elevate in your career and you gain more experience, more knowledge, more connections, you have to be like standing in your own power. I'm worth this, I'm worth that, and that's it. It still creeps up. No matter how successful you are, you still hear that, but I'm able to like crush it in like a second. It's like the devil and the angel on either side. And the minute you hear that tone, it's almost like a tone that you're, before the words come out, it's like, what? Nope, stop, return to sender, go back. You don't want to let that in your space or your energy, because then it will consume you. And it's very easy to kind of go down that rabbit hole So I think just knowing what your value and your worth is, you're able to stand in that confidence and the energy that you portray. And when you enter a room, it reads off of you. And then you get people kind of like buying into it. They're like, wow, it's just a presence that you have versus like you're coming in with the imposter syndrome. Oh, I don't know if I could do this. Why am I here? I'm not worthy. People can like feel that from you. And then it's like downhill from there.
DJ Lissa Monet knows what it's like to push through moments of self-doubt and how difficult that can be. Ultimately, persevering through adversity must come from your own mind.
Being a DJ, it's like an act of service. You're providing a service to people. You're providing an opportunity for people to dance, have a good time, to actually forget about their problems. And it's like, you can't be bringing your problems into the DJ booth because, I don't know, I personally feel like once you do that, you've like f***ed up the party. Well, I'll tell you this, I'm still not confident. I don't think, well, I shouldn't say that. There are people who are super confident about their craft and can walk into any room and say, yeah, I could do this. I still have my moments where I'm like, I don't know if I should do this gig, or I don't know if I should take this gig, or I don't know if I'll play the right music. Like I always go through that. And, I just kind of force myself to do it. I kind of give myself a little bit of a pep talk and like, yo, like you've been doing this for XYZ amount of years. Like, what makes this different from the last gig you did? And I kind of just force myself. There really isn't a process. It's just because DJing is second nature to me. It's just it's just something that it's just, I don't know, I can't explain it. It's just something that I do. It's just something that when, like I said, when whatever issues I have or whatever lack of confidence I have literally goes away once I start playing. It's just one of those things where it's like, I'm here now. There's no turning back. Like if I don't play, there's no music, therefore there's no party. So press a button.
Adversity comes in many forms. It can be internally, like lacking confidence, or externally, like losing your job and having to start over. Finding the resilience to bounce back is critical, as Jesse Jones knows all too well.
It's part of the game, I think. Lately now, though, as I've spent, probably over 10 years now entrepreneurially, you kind of, you kind of know how to, that things are going to come up. And again, I think it's really about like maintaining your composure. Sometimes you go off the handle, but things are gonna happen, and you have to figure out, okay, how is it best for me to navigate this? I can completely fold. And that may be the answer for some. No, that's cool. But I feel like sometimes just taking some time to kind of survey the scenario. I'm one who, when I know I'm overloaded, like I take time. And I try to come back to things like with a level head. Adversity is just kind of part of the game though. And I think it's those that are able to deal with that and navigate it. Nobody, like, there's no rhyme or reason that's going to be like, yeah, this is universal. Everyone can take this and you'll get through adversity too. It's not, and there's different levels of adversity, I think if you're committed to the goal or committed to the dream in a way that is like very deep, you will find a way to navigate what comes by any means necessary, if it's worth it to you. And that's why I believe like you should be passionate about what you're doing. I believe that is really the key, because you have this deep connection to what you're doing, so much so that you will navigate whatever you have to do to keep doing that.
We all fall down from time to time, but how you get up makes the difference between winning and losing. And having a ride or die mentor will be critical. Tune in to next week's episode of Amplify to find out why.